Everybody, we're running a little bit late. Imagine that. It's all Fergus's fault. Cheryl wanted you to see Fergus as the co-host today. It's a rainy, dreary day, but I think we should bring Cheryl in anyhow and kick Fergus off. He can come on the counter.
All right, buddy. Come on.
Don't worry, I sterilize the counter each and every. Hey, this is what happens. He's like, no, I'm not going anywhere. So anyhow, if you guys don't already know, but you should, Stacy Cross is on the show today from Dr. McDougall's program, the 12-day program that Cheryl and I did for the Starch solution, and she is our support specialist. And Stacy, I still give you 7,000 names because you're the best and you do all the things to me in my head. And keep my head on straight, right? You keep me.
Yes, I do actually do lots of things, but yes, support specialist is the technical name of my position.
And you guys just started a new cohort today?
No, we start Friday. So the January 12-day program begins Friday the 12th.
All right. Now, do you know if you're already full? Can anybody squeeze in if they had a last minute thought?
We're full. We're full, but go ahead and sign up for March because March is filling quickly too. So if you're on the fence, talk to us about it. Book a consultation with Dr. Lim. So let me just say real quickly, this is something I highly recommend. So a lot of people are on the fence. They're not sure if they want to do the 12-day program. One option is that you can sign up, book to have a consultation with Dr. Lim. It's a 30-minute visit with him. You pay for it. I believe it's $250, and you sign up, you see him, he goes over your medical history with you, talks to you about what you're hoping to gain by doing the program and all of that. And then after that consultation, should you decide, yeah, I'm going to go for it, pull the trigger and do the program, then the cost of the consultation actually gets applied towards the total cost of the program. So the consultation ultimately ends up being free. And so worst case scenario, you decide not to join the program, then you're out just that $250 and you've had a great conversation with Dr. Lim. But if you decide to join the program, then it's a free consultation with Dr. Lim. So either way, it's a win-win.
That's what I did too. And it actually was exactly what tipped the scales for me. And I think Dr. Lim is one of my favorite humans. He's delightful. And I don't say that about all the people.
No, she doesn't, really. Especially when it comes to doctors.
No, I just felt like one of the things that I love about Dr. Lim is he really meets you where you are. So your visit may be very different than my visit, but you'll still feel, get a lot out of it by the end, which is pretty cool. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So Stacy, we were talking just briefly before we came on. So, and is there anything else you want to say about you or the McDougall program or anything like that before we get started?
No, not at all. Let's get going.
Okay, awesome. So I was wondering, because, new year, new you, horrible New Year's resolutions that I don't believe in, and stuff like that. Things that have basically, over the decades of me trying to do it, and other people have kind of not worked. So I've been talking with my people a little bit because I pick a word of the year. My word this year is receive. And because I feel like I give a lot, but I don't always stop and sit and receive. And it means a lot. I can receive health. I can receive all kinds of good things in the new year. And I find sometimes that helps me at least come back to something when you're floundering or when you're just way thinking of 70,000 things. Yeah. But I had asked Stacy if there were some really easy things that maybe we could start doing for 2024 instead of some of these resolutions that I find slightly distasteful since they don't work for me.
Yeah. Well, just right off the top of my head, literally, I will say this. I have been rereading, I had already read, and I'm rereading the book Atomic Habits. And I love that book myself, but it really helps me with talking to patients about the power of our habits and intentions and things like that. And one thing I love that James Clear talks about in that book is he says, you can set a goal, right? You can say, like, let's say you decide you want to lose 40 pounds this year. Well, setting that goal, it's nothing. Like, it's like you can set any goal, but it doesn't empower you in any way to actually accomplish the goal. And so he basically emphasizes more the power of habits, small little incremental changes sustained over time to reach those goals. So instead of setting a goal like I want to lose 40 pounds, you break it down into like, okay, well, what would it take for me to lose 40 pounds? And then you say something else that's not very descriptive, like eat less or exercise more. Okay, but how can we break it down to the most minuscule, simplest, easiest to implement habit that I can begin executing today and day after day in an effort to reach that goal? The goal should not be the focus. The habits are the focus. And so I would encourage everybody to, whatever goal you have in your mind or dream or vision you have for this year, start to really put together some concrete steps that you can take and make them as small as possible. One example that I heard him give in an interview one time, this might also be in the book, I can't remember if it is or not, I haven't gotten there yet on this second read. But he was talking about, everybody wants to exercise more. And so a lot of his clients will say, like, I want to start running, I want to run a marathon by the end of the year or something. And like, they do nothing now, right? And so instead of giving them a goal, like you're going to run, a 5K by the end of the month, or you're going to run for 20 minutes. This is totally sedentary people. He encourages them, no, your only goal is every day you have to wake up, get in your gym clothes, and you have to go to the gym. All you have to do is touch the doorknob of the gym. That's it. You don't have to get on the treadmill. You don't have to do the weights. You don't have to attend the class, nothing. Your only goal is that every day, Monday through Friday or whatever, you have to get to the gym and touch the doorknob. And if you want to touch the doorknob and then turn around and get back in your car and go home, you can, no problem. But that does two things. One, it lowers the bar way, way low to where you are very likely to accomplish that goal. Okay. And the more that you're accomplishing these habits, these intentions that you're setting out, the more confidence you build for your ability to do that long term, right? But also, most likely, if you go through all the effort of driving to the gym and touching the doorknob, you're very likely to open the door and go inside and do at least a little workout. So I just love that example. Anyway, so all that to say, whatever goals, whatever intentions you have in your mind, start to really sit down and drill down into what kinds of small little habits you can start to put into place to get you closer to those.
I love that, and I think that's really great. And Atomic Habits is a book I've heard a lot about, and I've read little bits and excerpts of, but maybe now it's time to be a grown-up and buy it on Audible and listen to it while we're decluttering like we should be, right?
Absolutely.
It's very similar to how Howard kind of
Howard
helped.
Jacobson is who she's talking about. He was a friend of ours, and actually he was our coach in 2018, 2019. And so
His thing was just walk to the mailbox. Go to the mailbox, walk to the mailbox, and maybe while you're out there, you might decide to just go a little bit further, or you might decide you just need to go right back in the house. But, after 2-3 days of walking to the mailbox, then I'd walk the whole loop around the road, and that's almost a mile. Mm-hmm. And I just kept doing that every day. So it was one of the main things that got me going. Yeah.
And I think, and actually you guys may or may not know this, but so at least I am. I don't know about you. I'm back to the weight I was at 2019. So all the weight I gained over the pandemic, which was significant, is gone.
I'm much lower than I've ever been in the past 15 years. So
kind of going back to that mindset and stuff, it was really the mindset that really helped us do some of those things before. If someone was thinking about, I want to dip my toe in the starch solution, what do you think would be like a good atomic habit to kind of work that in?
Well, I'm a very big fan of mastering one meal. Okay. And for many, many of my patients, that one meal that's very easy to master is breakfast. Because they basically, most people who eat this way are having oatmeal and fruit for breakfast. Now, if you don't like oatmeal and fruit, like, you are not doomed to not be able to follow the starch solution. You can definitely do it. I get tired of having oatmeal and fruit, and so I'll have potatoes and veggies, or I'll have potatoes and fruit, or I'll have pancakes, or whatever it is. But I think a huge, huge point of progress is to master one meal and go, okay, I can have a compliant, totally McDougall breakfast every day. There's no reason I can't. So for me, that's oatmeal and blueberries with a splash of soy milk and a tablespoon of ground flaxseed. And I eat that every single day, and I super enjoy it. And there are no decisions to be made. And I already know that is going to be a winning meal for me. Now, that's what I would suggest. If you have any meal, if you have been not doing this at all, and you want to make that one incremental small change step towards following this way of eating all the time, pick a meal. Now, if you're someone who has been eating this way all the time, look likewise for the holes in your execution of your diet. So what is it? Where is it that you stumble? Where is it that you're falling? For a lot of other people, it's post-dinner snacking or evening snacking. So it might be good to set up a few boundaries around that. A boundary could look like, after dinner, I can eat as long as it's a fruit, a veggie, or some oatmeal. It's a good boundary. Or after dinner, I can eat as long as it's more of my dinner, like more potatoes or whatever. A boundary like that. Or if you're ready to give up, if you really feel like your snacking is really more of a habit than a need because you're not hungry, you're not actually hungry, then and so then it would lean more habit than actual need. Then you could just decide to not snack after dinner. And the only caveat I recommend that people use when they're trying to really combat that, because we did that. My husband and I were absolutely habitual post-dinner snackers every night for many years. And so we kicked that habit, and it was really tough. But when we did it, we never were like, you can never have a snack after dinner, ever, ever, ever for the rest of your life. What we said was, we know this is a habit. We know we're not eating because we actually need more calories at 9:30 at night right before we go to bed. So we're stopping unless we are physiologically hungry to the point that we think it might affect our sleep. And if that's the case, we eat something. And what we eat is a McDougall food. It's usually oatmeal. Sometimes it's potatoes, fruit, that kind of thing. But it's definitely on plan, and it's never dry starches. It's never nuts, seeds, or avocados, these calorie dense things right before bed. There's no need for that.
Those are all great suggestions too. And because I was thinking too, we haven't been making oatmeal because I had said, December has, the holidays usually shakes everybody up. December shook us up a little bit. We didn't do anything horrible, but we were not.
We switched from oatmeal to grits.
Well, but then for a while we weren't making anything.
Well,
but so
true.
because grits are fine to eat as well in the morning. Or do you have different feelings about that?
Just like anything else, it's all about what you put in it. And also grits sometimes, because they're a finer grain, I'm not sure. Some people just don't find that they're as filling as oatmeal, but it's up to you.
And that could be if they're, okay, and this is a Southerner talking about grits. So like because some people go, grits sound so gross, but grits and polenta are pretty much the same thing, though polenta is often a finer grain of the grain. Grits should be a coarser grain, a coarser ground of it. And I have found, when I first became vegetarian in the 80s, I found this Rise and Shine cereal, which was brown rice grits. And I haven't been able to find that, so I've got a mill and I might try that. But congee is awesome. It's awesome as breakfast and even as snacks and things. And basically, it's rice cooked in too much water with delightful seasonings. So you can put like cilantro or jalapeno or mushrooms or things like that for anybody who might not be a sweet breakfast person. She's not a sweet breakfast person. I'm happy with fruit and oats. Another thing that we're getting ready to re-implement too is getting those big things of baby potatoes from Costco and just cooking them up in the Instant Pot and having them in the fridge. And so, and dipping them in a sauce. We've been making a vegan ranch that's with homemade soy yogurt. It's really just homemade soy yogurt, garlic powder, dill. It's not a lot in it. But especially when we were doing that, if we were having a little snack at some point in the afternoon, it felt extra special. And it's a little potato. It's not like you can get like a tablespoon of ranch. You're getting like just a little bit on there.
I like them with mustard too.
Yeah, she really likes things with mustard. And you like to mix mustard with
I like to
the
mix
soy
mustard
yogurt
with
sometimes.
the soy yogurt and put it on potatoes because sometimes to me it kind of feels like potato salad.
Yum.
So.
Oh, and Ryan said I made a 6-quart mixed grain congee to freeze as it's great for savory days. And I think that can be really awesome too, is to freeze some stuff. Or like what you were saying too, I consider this a great reuse for any leftover oatmeal, is to have it as a dessert snack. Because it's so easy and tasty. I also find those white sweet potatoes, the Japanese or the Hana, seem very desserty to me too. And really, I don't know if it just tops it off, but I feel like when I'm eating those, it's not just for that sweet taste. It just seems to satisfy or check a lot of boxes. How do you, okay, what other, so breakfast, we've got that. We'll get breakfast off, or if you don't eat breakfast, if you do something else, then that could be lunch or that could be dinner too, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Just mastering one of your meals. If you already have a mastered meal, like your breakfast is always spot on, go for lunch. You know, dinner can be more challenging for some people because that's more often when we get called to social situations, meetings, things like that. So it may be a little bit harder to master dinner, but you certainly can master breakfast and lunch. I shouldn't say certainly. A lot of people, most people can get those two down. And, you know, just practicing every day, every day that you stick with what you planned and you eat that, you're reinforcing the resolution that you've made to eat this way. And it makes it easier for you to continue to make that choice. The more days in a row you can string together, days into weeks, into months, into years of eating this way, it gets easier and easier the longer you go.
I like that. I like that a lot, and I do agree too that just for us when we're doing our best, we always have cooked rice, a thing of cooked rice in the fridge, and as soon as it starts to get low, we make new. Same thing with potatoes. So a lot of times I will cook those I like the baby potatoes because then if I'm like there's a bunch cooked, if I'm feeling like I don't know, I need a little something or I have some veggie chili, I will slice those little potatoes and put them in the air fryer for a little bit and put the chili over it, and it just seems very decadent. Or even the bigger potatoes we can that are cooked, like if we cook maybe 6 baked potatoes, put them in the fridge, we can either scoop things out and mix it in and make it seem like mashed potatoes in a shell with some nutritional yeast or something like that, and serve some veggies over that. Or you can make almost instant mashed potatoes right on the fly. But when you cut them in wedges and stick them in the air fryer, they really get nice and crispy. Because I find, for me, that is the one thing sometimes that I miss the most when I'm being most compliant, is something crispy. Do you have another thing that you do to kind of get that crispiness in?
Yeah, if I'm just dying for something crispy, I'll get a piece of whole wheat bread and toast it and eat that with something on it.
Yeah, I do that too.
That's a delightful idea. And because it's one I personally don't think of as much, because I can eat some wheat, but I can't eat a whole lot. So sometimes I'll save that piece of bread for something special, but something crispy is something special.
Or a corn tortilla. You can put a corn tortilla in the air fryer, not just one. You can do 2 or 3. Stick those in the air fryer. A lot of people are really, they'll start to, they're trying to do maximum weight loss or Mary's Mini or something like that. Let's just say, for the sake of argument, they're trying to do maximum weight loss. And so they're trying not to eat any dry starches as much as they can, right? And then they start craving something crispy. And then they're sitting there going, well, there's nothing crispy on maximum weight loss. And they just sort of panic and they're like, I'm just going to eat some tortilla chips. And I'm like, no, that's the time that it's totally appropriate and fine to fall back on the normal starch solution McDougall diet and have yourself a piece of toast, or crisp up some corn tortillas and have that with salsa. Like, let's not forget that there's a whole entire program between all the garbage that you that you go to in an emergency and maximum weight loss. You've got the whole starch solution here. Use it as a tool for your disposal in those moments where you feel like you're just not going to be able to stand it unless you eat something crispy right then.
That is a beautiful point, and kind of goes into some other things we were going to talk about a little bit. So if I'm new and I don't know what all these words mean, I don't know what maximum weight loss, Mary's Mini, starch solution. So can you explain how they're similar, how they're different, when you might do one versus the other, and including what you recommend? And I know you recommended for me when I first started was to actually do the regular starch solution. Don't, because I think especially with some things like you've got the New Year's New You hat on, and you're like, I'm going to do the best thing ever. Okay.
Yes.
And before we do that, though, and there was one person who said, I think it was Jay Gary or Jay Gra. I never know. I just make up what the letters are, and says, I'm on Chef AJ's no breakfast plan. And do you want to address that before we get into what these other plans are?
Sure. Now, first of all, Kathy and Cheryl, do you know what that person is referring to? What is the no breakfast plan?
I don't. I do know that she, and here I'm going to put us both on the screen now. I do know that she's intermittent fasting some these days, I believe.
Okay.
But I do know still, though, that she talks about veggies for breakfast and stuff too. So I don't know what might be older, outdated information. So Jay, if you could give us a little more information about which part of Chef AJ's program you might be following. Did you have something you wanted to talk about before?
Sure, we can wait on an answer about that, but I would like to go ahead and assume that what that means is that no breakfast, okay? This person is not eating breakfast because they're following, it sounds like, a plan that Chef AJ has shared with the world that she's doing. I just want to make one thing very, very clear. We love Chef AJ, of course. She's a dear friend of the program, and you guys know, she actually even comes and does cooking demonstrations in our program. She's fabulous. She's great. You guys really need to know that the program, the plan that she puts out that sounds so similar to the maximum weight loss plan is not McDougall. Okay, it is not. I'm not saying that she doesn't follow the McDougall plan. She does, but she has other things that she's added in that have benefited her, that she, I guess, then is sharing, hey, this worked for me. I want you to do this, whether it be veggies for breakfast, whether it be skipping breakfast, as it sounds like that's what's going on now, intermittent fasting, things like that. And that's her prerogative to do with her own program. But I just want to make absolutely clear those three things that I just mentioned are not part of the McDougall diet. We do not promote intermittent fasting. We do not promote skipping breakfast. If you don't get hungry before noon and then you eat at noon, that's the McDougall program, okay? Because what we say is eat when you're hungry and stop when you're comfortably full. There is no time restriction on that at all whatsoever, okay? And the third one is veggies for breakfast. If you enjoy having vegetables with your starch-centered, starch-based breakfast, knock yourself out. There is no requirement, zero requirement for vegetables at breakfast time. Nor are there any requirements for vegetables at any time.
That's why I love
There is no requirement for a large salad or any of that, okay? When you are following the McDougall way of eating, you are eating a starch-based diet, period, okay?
That's great. And we are getting some comments in the side for those of you who may be watching the replay and not have access chat. Just says, Chef AJ has never been a breakfast person. It's always how she's eaten, but it's not a plan. And I think there is always the danger of looking at someone and deciding to do what they're doing without knowing if it's part of a plan. And then Serenity blooms. A few people are saying this, she just doesn't eat breakfast, never has. It's not part of her program.
Jay even says there, she just says she's not hungry until lunch. And I mean, that's...
So that's a little different than saying you should not have breakfast or you must intermittent fast. And what I love about the McDougall program and what you said is just like you're not required to skip breakfast like you might be in some other programs, you're also not required to eat breakfast if you're not hungry. And
there's plenty of days that we get up and we're both doing stuff and don't even think about eating until 1 o'clock or so.
It takes a little time to warm up. Like today, I knew I was a little, I've overworked myself a little bit, so I made sure for my emotional health and Cheryl's that I ate breakfast today, right? Because it kind of takes the edge off. But I think one of the things that I like about the McDougall program and why I picked it is because there are allowances made for your body, how it feels, what it needs, whereas I feel like a lot of other diets or eating plans, I hate the word diet anyhow, ways of eating, your eating plan are pretty much like you need to only eat between, let's say, intermittent fasting. You can only eat between these hours. Well, what if I'm only hungry outside of those hours? It doesn't seem, or things like that. So thank you for bringing it back to this. Yes.
Sure. Can I say one more quick thing about this? I've seen a couple of the comments and I just want to say a couple little things. Here, you mentioned, Kathy, that there's a little bit of a danger when we go on the internet. We're here on YouTube. I mean, even something I say about what I do, there is a high likelihood that someone will go, well, I want the exact results that Stacy got. I lost 55 pounds eating this way. And they're like, I want to do that. And so they'll begin to try to pattern their own choices after mine, to try to replicate the success that I had. When in reality, the best and shortest line between you and success is listening to your own hunger and fullness cues always and honoring those. So, some people might look at Chef AJ saying, oh, I'm just never hungry for breakfast. And it might start as the tiniest little inkling in their mind of like, well, maybe I shouldn't eat breakfast because Chef AJ lost however many 80 pounds, or I think she lost more than that, but she lost all this weight, and that's exactly what I'm trying to do. So maybe I need to not eat breakfast. I'm here to tell you guys, you do not want to see this girl without breakfast. Like, I would die. And I'll tell you why. Because breakfast is my best, favorite, biggest, craziest meal of the day. I eat so much oatmeal, it would make your head spin. Okay? And I accomplished my weight loss goals easily eating the McDougall diet, eating a gigantic breakfast. Okay? So I'm all of that to say, back to the question about what are some good, I forget what you called it. You didn't say goals. You didn't say
easy changes that you could make.
Easy changes for 2024. If I could wave my wand and change one thing in everybody's mind and heart and spirit, it would be like, honor your own body. Honor your own hunger and fullness cues, maybe for the first time in your whole life. We have been taught since we were, many of us, and I know there are men here as well, and I can't speak exactly to the messaging that men receive as young people, but I can tell you as a woman, since I was like 10 or 11 years old, every single thing in my culture and society has been screaming at me, you can't trust yourself. You can't trust your body. You should not listen to your hunger. You don't know anything about what you should be eating or what you need. Okay? And now I'm 42 years old, and now I know that that's all a big, hairy, disgusting lie. And I'm undoing that messaging in my own life, and I'm hoping to undo it for others as well. You can trust your body. Your body does know exactly what it needs. Your body is an intricate, amazing, glorious machine that is designed by nature to keep your booty alive on this earth, okay? So when your body tells you, I'm hungry, it's hungry. And when your body tells you, I'm full, it's full. And you can trust that. There's a reason why you don't see deer out there in the wild carrying 40, 50, 60 extra pounds. Why? Because they innately know when they need to eat, when they need to stop, what they should eat, what they shouldn't. Unfortunately, our environment, our surroundings, the highly palatable, super calorie bomb foods that we have around us screw up our heads. That's what it comes down to, okay?
Yeah, you know, there was like deer McDonald's, they would all be lined up, right?
100%. Yes, absolutely. It's the reason why when we throw our pumpkin over the fence at the end of the fall season, those deer go bananas. Why? Because there's not a pumpkin back there. That is like the richest thing in their environment, and they go bananas and they scarf that thing down. But anyway, the point I was trying to make though is you can try when you get back to whole natural plant foods, the foods that you were made to run on, and you're eating those, you can trust your hunger and fullness cues. They are perfect, okay? And I am here to tell you, I know I'm just one person, and I know you guys don't know me that well. I'm talking to all of you people out there watching this. But I am being honest with you. When I eat beans, rice, corn, quinoa, barley, oatmeal, even cooked pasta sometimes, fruits and vegetables, I effortlessly lose and maintain my weight. No problem at all whatsoever. Full stop. Okay? And I'm just one person of thousands of people who have done the McDougall diet and have seen a return to believing and trusting in their own bodies' signals and cues, honoring those, and getting out of the diet trap and mentality.
And that is all amazing. Betsy is saying, and it sounds so easy to listen to those hunger and fullness cues, but it's so hard sometimes. It sure makes sense though. So she's on team, I feel that. And actually I'll go back to where we can see.
Well, I think we experienced that when we were doing the McDougall plan, and I think we talked to you specifically about that back during when we were in our cohort, that like because I was on Ozempic and things, my hunger clues were all kinds of messed up, and And then it took some time for things to get back on track and for me to start believing what I was feeling and things like that. I think we're much better at it now, but I still notice that there's some things that impact it, like stress. And if we're under stress or have something going on that's making us feel stressed, I don't always feel those hunger clues in the way that I should. Sometimes I get some false clues that are my brain trying to tell me to.
They're not real hunger
They're
cues,
not real
right?
hunger cues.
Would you agree, or how would you describe
No.
that? Yeah, I think
No,
they're
and
not real.
yeah, so let me address that, and I will simultaneously address 3 comments. What you just said, what Sandy says over here about some of us have broken hunger signals. If I don't make myself eat, I wouldn't eat until 4 or 5, and then I would only have 1 meal a day, which perhaps isn't the best. So she said that. And then Jill says, I feel full, then an hour later, I'm looking for food. Okay, so we've got 3 comments in a row from Cheryl, Sandy, and Jill about what's wrong with their hunger drive. Mm-hmm. There's nothing wrong with your hunger drive. If you are eating whole natural plant foods, it will all even out, okay? Mm-hmm. When you are hungry, you should eat. When you are not hungry, you should not eat. It takes practice. You're not going to get it right. It's not perfect. You're going to mess it up a lot. But the best news is that when you're eating whole, natural plant foods and as close to their natural state as possible, when you overeat, all that will do is prolong the time that it takes for you to get hungry again. Mm-hmm. When you undereat, you'll have an experience like what Jill talks about is I feel full and then an hour later I'm hungry again. Go back in the kitchen and get some more food, Jill, or go in your lunch bag and make sure you packed it. If you're taking your food on the go, you need to make sure you have tons of food, way more than you think you need. I have not been successful. If I'm packing for a day away, if I'm packing my food and I don't come home with like a container full of food, then I consider that like a fail. Because I want to pack so much food that there's no possible way I could need it all. Because I don't want to underpack and then be hungry. Because hunger leads to hanger, which leads to bad food choices.
Yes.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
So let's see. I'm trying to think of how.
Oh, all that to say, your hunger mechanisms are not broken, guys. Whether that means you're not hungry till 4 p.m. So Sandy, I can't assume this is the case for you, but I'll tell you what I see in the McDougall program a lot. I see women who have like 50 plus pounds to lose. They come in the program, we put them on this diet. They're usually coming from kind of a standard American diet or like somewhat had started the McDougall diet. And they go on the diet and they go, oh my gosh, I've completely lost my appetite. And they were all wigged out about it because they were just in, whatever other diet, and they were told they needed to eat every 4 hours or they need to, whatever. And they're all wigged out. They're like, I'm not hungry. And I'm like, then don't eat. And they're like, what? No, won't I starve? Won't I whatever? No, because while your body is thanking you for giving it whole natural plant foods and your body is undergoing the healing process, your body does not want to carry 50 pounds of extra weight. And so your body is happy to use all of those fat stores and burn through those. So if you do not feel hungry, don't worry about it. Now, the next thing that she said though is particularly a little bit of a red flag. She said, well, if I don't eat, if I followed my hunger cues, then I wouldn't be hungry till 4 or 5, and then I only eat 1 meal a day. No, honey. Nope. Sandy, listen. Today, if you don't get hungry till 4 o'clock and then you eat 1 meal, you have not done anything wrong. What is wrong and what I don't want you to do is go, oh, I guess I'm a person who only eats 1 meal a day. Tomorrow, I will also eat 1 meal a day. And the next day, 1 meal a day. No, we take 1 day at a time, every single one of us, 1 meal at a time. Sometimes for me, it's fine for me to eat at 9, noon, and 5, and I do just fine. The next day, I may be eating at 8, 10, 12, 2, 4, 6, and I don't judge it. I don't judge my body at all. My body is the expert at me. My body is the expert at what it needs. And so I listen.
I love all of that.
That's so good information.
Much, because just like when you're saying honor your own body, listen to your own body and don't try to match it up. And I think this kind of makes everything come together from when you were saying, someone on the internet that you respect might do this, that, and the other, and that works great for them. And by saying it doesn't work great for me doesn't mean it doesn't work great for them either. And I think there's a lot of, as humans, we seem to want to make things right for everybody or wrong for everyone. So we discovered the Starch solution makes us feel better. So therefore, now we want everyone we know to do the Starch solution.
But then at the same, but at the same time, everybody's body is so completely different, mm-hmm. and I think that's what I liked so much about being on the McDougall plan is because, just like Stacy said, sometimes maybe I only eat 2 meals today, and then I don't feel guilty about it. But the next day, if I have to eat 6 times, I don't feel guilty about it. I sometimes go, why am I so hungry lately? And then I kind of take a look at what is the quality of what I am putting in my mouth, and does that have to do with why I'm so hungry lately? And then most of the time, I figure out that I've added something in there that doesn't suit me well. Like if I'm eating too much bread and I have this terrible relationship, and it will make me think I'm full, and then I will be full very soon afterwards because
hungry.
I'll be hungry afterwards because the bread doesn't stick with me like the rice and potatoes and things like that.
Because it's kind of like the new word that I've been using a lot is pre-digested. just because it
I used that last time I was here, and I was so worried I was making everybody sick.
Well,
no, it's a regular word in our household
and I mean,
now.
The thing is that's one of the reasons a lot of food, I'm trying to think of some examples right now, but like flour and things like that, a lot of that happened as a way of food storage, but also to feed people who needed a lot of calories. There was a time, now is not that time for most of us, at least. I mean, some people are still working in granite mines somewhere or doing something like that. There was a lot of physical labor. And Dr. McDougall talks about that too. I mean, there was a time that people needed more calories, but I'm sitting on my behind today doing computer work. I don't need even the same amount of calories today probably as I do when I am doing all the work in the kitchen. So for me, thinking of it as pre-digested or faster to digest, if that makes people feel more comfortable. I think it helps make it a clearer choice sometimes for me. Because we think, oh, bad, horrible processed food. And I'm not saying it's not, but, again, I feel like we have a tendency to blame whatever thing. Mm-hmm. It's not that I put the McDonald's French fries in my mouth. It's that McDonald's is bad and it's doing this to me. And I feel like we do have choices, right? And I think that it's very interesting to start to listen to our bodies. And I think, like what you were saying earlier, Stacy, about we've been trained about so many things. I know there's some people here who have been doing Weight Watchers for 40 years. And that's a lot of kind of brainwashing in a way. We have learned to believe this thing and this is what we do. So now to switch it's hard. It's not impossible, but it takes more work than if it's somebody's, I don't know, someone who's just been eating pretty okay, not told to count every calorie that goes into their mouth. But I like the Starch solution because you're not counting all those calories.
Right.
And I do want to say that Betsy, who had one of the original questions, said that helps so much. I find that when I eat past fullness but eat whole food plant-based, it's easier to grant myself grace than it was before I started this way of eating. Mm-hmm. And Delia says, my problem is I eat when I'm not hungry. It's a habit.
Very common. That's all of us. You are so not alone. And I want you to just let go of any sense of shame that you have around that. It is not your fault. The reason is because the foods that we have now access to all the time are super hyper palatable. They're delicious. It's really hard to stop, okay? Especially things like chips and cookies. And I mean, you know, we all know what our trigger foods are, right?
Exactly.
But the beauty is that when it comes to these whole natural foods, especially if you're not, you know, going to great lengths to make them taste just amazing. And I hate to say this to Kathy. I always sort of like feel embarrassed to say, but you know, some of these amazing recipes that Kathy makes, these gourmet, incredible meals that she's taught you all to make, they're wonderful. But you have to keep an eye on yourself, because when we make these incredible recipes and things taste amazing, we can have a tendency to passively overconsume calories because it's hard to stop when they taste really good. So just keep an eye on yourself. And if the scale's not budging, but you know that you're sticking with no animal products, no oil, or super, super low oil, and the scale's not budging, it's possible that you're, you know, over consuming calories accidentally because it tastes too good.
Yeah.
So that's something to keep in mind.
And Mona says, I love Stacy's advice. I feel she understands because she went through the same issues, which is true. Mona's also delightful. And this cute Oak Queen necklace that I'm wearing today, Mona gave me that for the holidays. I'm very excited.
Oh my gosh, love it.
Yeah, we do have one question, Stacy, if you don't mind.
Of course.
From Lissa is saying, rice and potatoes spike her blood sugar. Should I continue to just write it out and let those spikes happen? Will they improve? And I know you might need a little more backstory, so feel free to ask and I will look to see if she answers some things.
Okay, Lissa. So I'm guessing that you are a diagnosed type 2 diabetic, but without knowing that for sure, I can't for sure answer the question, but I can answer it for diabetics because there's probably quite a few of you guys out there listening, type 2 diabetics. So what happens is when we are in the process of reversing your diabetes, oh yeah, okay, I see. She says, yes, that's right. Okay, good. So this answer will apply to you, Lissa. Okay, here we go. So what happens is, and if you guys, if this thing I'm about to say, you're like, what? I want you to go to YouTube and type in Dr. McDougall diabetes, okay, and watch his lecture on diabetes. Or you can go to our website, drmcdougall.com, drmcdougall.com, and go look at everything we have on diabetes. But here's what I'm about to say. Diabetes is type 2 diabetes is a fat issue, not a sugar issue, okay? And so the reason why people have type 2 diabetes is because their body has stored a lot of excess dietary fat. And your body basically has stuffed that extra fat away. It's a super awesome, you know, evolutionary aspect, you know, that is good, right? So like your body thinks, oh, we got a bunch of extra fat in the diet today. Let's store it in case of a rainy day. Well, of course, as we all know, there doesn't ever come a day where you don't have access to food. And so your body just continues to stuff and store that fat in your cells. Okay, and so your cells are all globbed up with fat. And so when you eat anything that has carbohydrates, all plant foods basically, your pancreas does its job of releasing insulin. Insulin is a vehicle. It's like a pickup truck. It goes into your bloodstream and it picks up the blood glucose, blood sugar, because that is your body's preferred natural fuel source. And so in a normal situation, your insulin would come out of your pancreas, come down into your bloodstream, pick up the glucose and escort it into your cells to be used for energy, okay? But when you have type 2 diabetes, your pancreas releases the insulin in response to your meal, right? The insulin comes down into your bloodstream, grabs that blood glucose, goes to the cell, and whoops, can't get in. It's all globbed up with fat, okay? And so because it can't get in, you continue to maintain a high level of blood glucose, which is type 2 diabetes, okay? So when we're in the process of reversing type 2 diabetes, it takes a little bit of time for your body to begin to release all that stored fat out of your cells. And as it releases that stored fat, the cells are open for business, and your body can start to very efficiently get that blood glucose into the cells to be used for energy, and your fasting blood glucose levels will get lower and lower and lower and lower. However, in the meantime, until those cells aren't globbed up anymore, you will continue to read high on your blood glucose, especially when you eat things that are high in glucose, like plant foods, especially starches, okay? So like rice and potatoes and things like that. That is nothing to fear or worry about. That just means you haven't reversed your diabetes yet. The way that you reverse the diabetes is you eat a starch-based, low-fat diet, because when you go really, really low on your food, then that gives your body the opportunity to say, okay, we can release this fat out of the cells. We're going to go ahead and burn this fat out, and that's what unglobs your cells and makes them able to receive the blood glucose that your insulin brings in. Okay?
Oh, that's great. And Abby says, I'm sure you're seeing this, amen to the extra fat in the cells explanation. My husband finally proved this to himself when he saw the effects of exercising and eating more plant-based. So,
oh, exercise. Thank you, Abby. I'm so glad you said that. Exercise is also super helpful for type 2 diabetes, because in the meantime, while we're trying to reverse your type 2 diabetes and your blood glucose levels are high when you eat rice and potatoes, and you go out and you walk around the block, your body burns that glucose off. So that helps you as you're continuing to reverse your diabetes through the diet. You're also burning off excess blood glucose by exercising. And it doesn't need to be anything crazy or strenuous. Just a walk around the block, or like Cheryl said, a walk to the mailbox makes a huge difference. And Cheryl can attest to this because she monitors her blood glucose.
Well, and also I've had on and off for the past month or so, I've been having some leg issues and some other things that have been kind of keeping me from being able to move about as much as I was moving about, and I see that reflected in my numbers. It's like, every time I see that, I have to tell myself, until the belly's gone, this is going to be an issue. But I know that every day that I eat the way I'm supposed to, and every pound that I lose is closer to getting to the day that I won't have to worry about that anymore.
And when she's not having any kind of issues about walking, it shows up.
Even just a
mood,
mile. Even just a mile will just and if I go 3 miles, it's amazing what it does.
That's my normal walk, and if I'm walking with her and the dog, it takes a lot longer. But it's still great for my mental health, even if I'm not booking it. And even just doing a slow 3 mile or a faster 3 mile on a daily basis changes everything for me. I'm not looking for blood sugar numbers, but I find that it makes my hunger cues more visible to me. I don't know if it's because I'm mentally clear and paying attention, or because my body's like, okay, we're a team, let's do this. But I agree with that very much. I do want to bring up, there's something that come up, and I want to just kind of make sure that I'm heard you the way I thought, because you said very low fat. And what I'm seeing in a comment is, she said very low oil. So I want to pull that back up and
No, she did say that earlier.
Oh, did you?
I said both. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay. This is a spot, guys, that I'm in now, and I'm going to answer this, and I want you to really listen carefully, because it's very easy to accidentally attach to a soundbite, like a piece of what someone's saying, and I want everyone to hear the whole of what I'm saying here. So if you are eating whole natural plant foods, you are naturally going to be eating a lower fat diet than the standard American diet, no question, okay? And then when you take it a step further, like McDougall recommends for anybody wanting to lose weight, and you stop eating nuts and seeds and the higher fat plant foods, then that's when you get into what I would describe as a very low fat diet. That's really good. That's where you want to be for diabetes or disease reversal. That's where you want to be for weight loss. That's how you want to eat the rest of your life. Let's say you ever were to dip a little too low on your weight. Well, all we have to do is add a little bit of that back in. It's not a big deal. But eating a very low fat diet is shown time and time again to be very health promoting. Okay, that's what that is. Now, referencing when I said, I believe I initially said no oil. And then I corrected myself and said low oil. Why? The reason why is because the McDougall diet recommends that you not consume any free oils, okay? So any of these like avocado oil, canola oil, extra virgin, double, quadruple organic olive oil, it doesn't matter. It's all the same. It's basically a plant food where only the fat has been extracted. Everything else goes in the garbage, okay? So all the fiber, nutrients, vitamins, all go in the bulk of the plant itself, go in the garbage, and then they bottle just the fat and they sell it to you and tell you you can't make food without it, okay? That's what free oil is. We would like you to eliminate free oils, but we also recognize that you're human beings still living in this food environment that we all live in, and we know that I'm almost about to say nobody,
Oh no.
as close to nobody as possible, can go 100% no oil in their mouth ever again for the rest of their lives, because there is so much in our food system that has small little trace amounts of oil. The reason why I say you need to limit your intake of oil as much as possible is because it is still true that the lower you can go on your oil, the closer to zero you can get, the more likely it is that you'll have quicker weight loss, that you'll have diabetes reversal, those types of things. That is true. So try to get as low as you can, right? But what I don't ever want to see happen is I don't want someone to hear me say no oil, zero, and then they're out to eat and they inadvertently get something that has like a drop of oil in it, and they think that's it, I'm doomed, it's over, I'm going home and eating the Doritos and ice cream. I see it all the time. I know it sounds ridiculous, but I see it time and time again. I see it every day in my job, where someone is totally derailed because they think they might have gotten exposure to a little bit of oil. So this is what I mean. Within the best control that you have, try to eliminate oil, knowing that you may consume small trace amounts of oil at times when you truly have no other choice, and it's okay. It's not a deal breaker. Everybody wants black and white, right? Do this, don't do that. Do this, don't do that. But there's so much gray. There's so much gray, and it's like, in the case where you're not the one doing the oil pouring, you know, like you're out to eat or you're at a friend's house or whatever, then you switch over into minimize the damage mode, where I am trying to pick the lowest possible oil option that I have. And I'm trying to make the best of a not perfect situation. So that's why I say minimize your intake of oil as much as you possibly can.
I love it, and thank you so much for saying all that information. Apple was like, Stacy's on fire today, and then I want to.
Fired up.
Oh no, that's awesome! That's what we need. It's a new year,
Okay,
new
good.
excitement. And Ryan asked me to read out loud the last part of their email, which was. When I like that she said very low oil. I consider myself oil free, but some people are so extreme about being anti-oil, and it triggers my anxiety. And I think that you've addressed that as well. And I do know that just as when we go out and we're like, oh yeah, we do the starch solution, people's faces change and they're like, that's way too strict for me. And it's also why. And well, I try not to misinform anyone to the best of my capabilities. And you know, we do 90 to 95%. That 90 to 95% is so that we can go to our favorite bowl restaurant, which we did, which was really pretty healthy. We get lots of vegetables. We get whole grain purple rice. And one of the things that we've done is look up the sauces that are there, and from the calories kind of deducted which one had more oil and which one was a little more friendly. And so I love that you kind of talk about make the best choice that you can in that situation, because I think there are some voices out there that are very loud, that are very black and white. You do it this way or you're not doing it.
Yeah.
And
Well, what's difficult is that a lot of people who come to the McDougall program think that that's how we feel. Like and for whatever reason, they think the McDougall diet is this very strict set of rules, and you aren't to veer outside of that at all whatsoever. And that's just simply not true. And at the beginning of basically every lecture during the course of the McDougall program and on our website, and I think I shared with you last time I was there, I shared that quote from our website that basically says, we're giving you guidelines that will help you reach your most optimal health. The more you're able to follow those guidelines or move towards those guidelines, the better your results will be. But this is not an all or nothing program. It is not. And I think the more comfortable people can get with it being a little gray sometimes, the more grace they can give themselves to not be right or wrong all the time, the freer you become with food. And that's a beautiful thing. I want everybody to be set free. Hey, listen, I was on Weight Watchers for many years. I counted so many calories. I ate so many grapefruits. I mean, I've done all the diets, you guys. I have. And I would say I was very much not free when it came to food. My whole life, really, until recent years. And there is nothing like food freedom. There's nothing like it. It's wonderful. It's a revelation, really. And I want that for everybody.
Well, and it's the reason that we have been able to like just kind of stick to this and just incorporate this into our lives, and we'll eat this way for the rest of our lives because our eyes have been opened and we know us, and we've said all along, if we didn't have that flexibility, this would have already been done and over with. Like we would have already, like if it was all or nothing, we would already been done.
And a while back, Justine had said, well, do you just eat this way to lose weight, or is this a long-term solution? And it's a long-term thing, right? Mm-hmm. Because you don't just lose your weight and then go back to McDonald's, because then all you're doing is loading that back up.
Right.
Right?
Right. Yeah. And not to mention the Starch solution, like the McDougall diet is a life diet. It's a lifestyle. The weight loss is just one aspect of it, because you guys know my favorite quote from Dr. McDougall, which is, we're not just trying to fit into a smaller casket. Okay. We're not trying to get skinny and then die. We are trying to live long and healthy lives, so this diet happens to be fantastic for weight loss. Guess what? It also happens to be really great for the planet, and great for cancer prevention, and great for heart disease prevention and diabetes. And, it's like, hey, it's a one-stop shop.
Yep.
It's one solution for all of the biggest worries that we have. And so, yeah, it's meant to be a lifetime thing. Can I address one question?
Absolutely.
Somebody asked, should we worry about the fat in oats? No, baby, no. Do not worry about the fat in oats. Don't do it. Cheryl knew I was about to rail.
Yeah, we're only showing you. You're only Stacy is seeing both of us like shake our heads. No.
Do not worry about the fat in oats. Do not worry about the fat or the sugar grams or anything in any whole natural plant food, other than we don't want you eating coconut, okay, y'all? Coconut is really high in saturated fat. It's just not a health food at all. Coconut oil or whole coconut, very high in saturated fat. But no, all of the, whole natural plant foods, do not worry about fat. The other higher in fat plant foods like nuts, seeds, avocados, and in some cases soy, those should be reserved for people who are at a healthy weight and they're happy with their weight. They're happy with all their biometric markers, and then they eat those things in small quantities, and they're monitoring their weight and they're monitoring their biometric markers to make sure that things aren't getting worse when they're eating those things.
And I love that. One of the things that's kind of being bantered around too, because I know you're like me, you read the comments while you're talking, which I love, and you can always pull out anything you ever want to, Stacy. This is just know that. Karen was saying, getting over black and white thinking is my biggest hurdle to overcome, but I'm getting there and working on it. And then let's see. I think there was someone else saying something too, but like Fiddle DD says, I get paralyzed by extremes and forget to be okay with the baby steps along the way so I don't sabotage myself and get stuck in place. And then Betsy saying, this way of eating makes it so much easier to be gray, to get over all the black and white thinking. It takes a leap of faith, but I swear it works. And I think,
I love that.
You know, it's, you know, and Apple always has the best things. And so like Apple is like, and it's easier to clean up your dishes. So that counts for a lot too. And it makes you think, if it's so hard to scrub that off the dishes, what happens on the inside when there's no soap?
Yeah.
Right.
I try not to think about that. And so I think from what you're saying today, I think we were talking about what are some easy changes for 2024. Sounds like make your first meal of the day, whatever you choose to call it. That should take out some of the objections.
Yeah.
and have that be the one that's easy to prepare, or maybe throw it in. We do grits, congee, and oatmeal in the slow cooker, so I can put it in the night before. And if we wake up and if it's one of the rare days where we're not hungry for breakfast, then I put it in the fridge and it's ready for the next day. So there's no losing in that. The other thing might be look and see where you are having some black and white thinking and maybe look at how that's affecting you. Is that making your change really that much harder? You know, because even things like, as we've had this on this show too, you and I, you know, well, is this kind of sweet potato has more sugar than that kind of sweet potato yeah, starch solution, all starches, all whole food, plant-based, unrefined starches. Yay. And so, and that's why I like it, because it really is yay. So as soon as you start getting into this minutia, you're just making your life harder. I do it too. I don't do it necessarily with potatoes, but there are other things in my life that I make myself suffer for no good reason.
Yeah. Well, and the reality is, if you could sit here, Kathy, and tell me, Stacy, you should eat 1.5 cups of potatoes. That's enough potatoes for you. That would be, in some ways, easier for me to adhere to than, Stacy, I can't tell you how many potatoes is too many for you. You're just going to have to listen to your body. It's like, what? No. Once again, we've been taught our whole lives not to listen to our bodies, which is wrong, right? And so, like, I have people ask me all the time, like, oh, well, I hear you saying you eat oatmeal every day, but how much oatmeal? And I'm like, I have no idea. Like, it's a lot, though. I can tell you it's a lot of oatmeal. But some days it's a lot and some days it's not as much. I mean, I just don't even, it doesn't even occur to me for 1 second to measure it, because I don't have to, because my body has proven to me that I can lose and maintain my weight eating oatmeal of any quantity, you know, as long as I'm eating when I'm hungry and stopping when I'm full. So it is a major, who was it that said that? Was it Fiddle DD or someone who said it's a leap of faith? Oh my gosh. You took the words right out of my mouth. It is, but you should take it. You should take that leap of faith. Quit circling around and looking at what all's out there, like, oh, well, but maybe I should do this. And my cousin had success doing that and this and that. This leap of faith is like the best, most freeing leap of faith I ever took with regards to my eating. And it is such a delight. It's such a delight to feel so in control and so satisfied all the time by my food. And I know that Cheryl and Kathy feel the same way.
Oh, yeah.
It's very, very true. And I think it is freeing. So I feel like if you're really over analyzing all your food a lot, maybe try and make it as simple as possible. So like if I don't feel good, if I've had a bad brain week, I've abused my brain and done too many things. Stacy and I were talking about this because I was feeling a little sheepish about it, but I wasn't feeling so good. I cooked a bunch of sweet potatoes. And honestly, for like 3 days, I just ate cold sweet potatoes out of the fridge. And I was feeling, and when we first started the program, we were like, we had seconds on oatmeal. So and Stacey was like, that sounds great. Are you going to have thirds? Are you full? And I was like, what is this witchcraft she is whispering to me?
And I'm just sitting there going, this can't be right.
Yeah, because we're both like, oh, it's day one and we've already failed. We were having all these feelings. So I like to share those with everybody who's watching, because we're not trying to be like the perfect McDougallers. We're not. We didn't just come in and go, snap. We've got it. We're doing it.
Isn't there a word for that? What did they call them?
Star McDougallers?
Star McDougallers, yeah.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, and we're just little humans struggling just like everybody else with our and for me personally, sometimes it's struggling with how I view things, how my brain is programmed to think of things, because I'm programmed that those little cups that cost like $4, that's the serving size of oatmeal I should be happy with for breakfast. And I've got like a giant bowl of oats, and I've got my little pre-made pumpkin spice mix that I put on in there with all the cinnamon and goodness.
There was one day when I dipped into our travel stuff. We had some of those
Our
cups,
emergency oatmeal.
cups of oatmeal, and I can't remember, she was not feeling good or something, and I hadn't made oatmeal the night before, and I was really like, I need some oatmeal. So I went over there and I got one of those. I was like, I'll just make one of those. And I got done and I looked at it and I was like, you gotta be
It's like
kidding me.
three tablespoons.
I need
Maybe
3
it's
or
a quarter
4 of
cup.
these to make up what I normally eat in oatmeal.
And so I think some of it, and I think I commend you, Stacy, for showing up strong through this, is that some of it is changing all of these old patterns and ways of thinking. It can be as difficult as that, and it can also be just as easy as, how about you eat a potato every meal and some vegetables?
Mm-hmm.
Like, if you're feeling overwhelmed, like I often do, then I'll be like, Cheryl, just cook some rice.
Mm-hmm.
We always have frozen vegetables that we can throw in the microwave.
Yeah.
You don't use the
And
microwave, put it in the air fryer.
Sometimes we'll just eat a bowl of rice.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
mean, it's just that
Love it.
simple.
And it can be that easy.
Yeah.
And then if you're like, I won't ever do that, I need, there's SOS salt-free blends you can sprinkle on top of there, or whatever you need to do to be you. And it may be different than me or the same, but the most important thing is that you're moving the needle towards something you want to do. And that's why I wanted to talk about these easy ways to just get closer. So
Yeah.
I love maybe pre-cook or batch cook your first meal so you can just heat it up and just try to get out of your own way. I'm talking to me as if I'm on the other side. I'm like, Kathy, please get out of your own way. So it's whoever's listening to this is not just you. Every human being gets in their own way in one way or another.
Yeah.
And just the more we can see it and accept it, the more potatoes we can eat. And we get to eat all the potatoes we want in the Starch Solution. I was telling someone who is a standard American diet food blogger. She's like, what do you mean you lose weight eating potatoes? Like, I was like going all the way back to the day. I'm like, it's okay. It's kind of the opposite of keto is what I say to people who are like obviously not doing that. So anyhow, we get to eat all the potatoes. There's so many people out in the world that cannot have all the potatoes that they need to fill themselves up.
Yep.
Just be happy
Yes.
for the little things.
Yeah.
Do you have anything else that you want to, I know you need to go soon. Do you have any things you want to answer
Yeah.
or final words?
Yeah, I mean, yes. I just think we get really stuck in messaging that we've received for any length of time. That potato example that you just gave is a perfect example of it. Most of your neighbors, friends, and family members out there in the world are absolutely convinced that potatoes are fattening. They will not be talked out of it. They don't understand it's because I was putting bacon and butter and sour cream and all that stuff on it. Like, turns out that was what it was. And the thing is, I think the phrase of the day is leap of faith, because ultimately that's what this is. Because most of us have never eaten this way long enough to see what the heck would happen to our bodies if we did it, But I just want to encourage everybody, trust fall. I got you. Cheryl and Kathy's got you. We've got our arms out. Just trust fall. You're going to be okay.
Yep.
We'll help you along the way. If you sort of start to, you're not falling perfectly straight, you're falling kind of sideways, we'll just readjust, move you back to center, right? And begin to give yourself the gift of deprogramming all of the nasty diet messaging that you've been fed your whole life. And just know that it's really real. You can eat potatoes and lose weight, and oatmeal and corn, and you can eat actually kind of surprising amounts of all of those things and continue to lose weight.
It is true.
Yes. And we'll be here to support you and talk you off the ledge when you're like, oh, wait a minute, that's too much oatmeal. We'll go, no, it's not. It's perfect.
Well, thank you so much. It's always just a huge pleasure to have you on the show, and I know you're coming back in a few weeks, and and I'm excited about that. You're also starting a whole new cohort for the McDougall 12-day program on Friday, so I wish you all the best of luck.
Yep.
And
thank you so much.
I hope you get to rest and enjoy yourself in spurts at least.
You. I will. Well, I love what I do, so I'm excited. I'm geared up and ready to go with our January people. And if there are any January people here listening, shout out to the January cohort of the McDougall program. We cannot wait to get you guys going on Friday. We'll see you then.
You guys are going to have a bunch of fun.
Yeah, it's going to be amazing. It's going to be amazing, and you're going to do great things, and we can't wait to hear about it. Okay, thank you so much, Stacy.
See you, everyone.
And everybody